Hi everyone, this is Mr. West, and today we're doing a tutorial video on dividing decimals, and this of course is from Math-DrIlls.com. Make sure to check out Math-DrIlls.com. They are listed in the link below in the description. They have amazing math resources, so give them a click. We're going to start at the bottom here, but we're going to find each quotient. Those are the instructions, and we have decimals, and we're dividing by decimals. We're not dividing by whole numbers, so there's a little bit of a wrinkle that we need to do. So I'm going to start with this one right here. And we're going to follow this step-by-step process. So the first step is we are going to move the decimal. What that means is we need to change this problem so that we are dividing by a whole number. We want this to be a whole number instead of that 0.2. We want it to be a 2. Now, we just can't move the decimal and be like, okay, let's divide 0.56 by 2 because we just changed the problem. So we have to change something else if we move that decimal. And that means we're going to move that number right there. So the decimal gets moved in both the divisor and the dividend. So we have to move both those decimals in order for it to stay balanced. So that's how we're going to move the decimal. So let me show you what that looks like real quick. Kind of running out of space. Let me move this. Okay. So I'm going to rewrite this just to show you what that looks like. So once we rewrite it, it looks like 0.5. Oops. 5.6. So we have a new problem here. We have 5.6 divided by 2. That's easier to think about. It's easier to manage, and it makes it way more simple. And it takes us to our step 2, which is bring up the decimal. So once we have it written like this, we are just going to simply write that decimal right above it. So the decimal is right here, and we're going to think of like these lanes. So we have these lanes right here for all our place values. Okay, and you can see I continued it. That would be a step 4. In this worksheet, you're not going to have a step 4, which is you're going to keep going until you have no more remainder. So with decimals, you should never have remainders. You just continue going until you don't have any more remainders. And you just continue the going into the thousands and 10,000s and so forth. Okay, but for this one, it's more simple because we're not going to have that. So we brought up the decimal, and now we can start our division process. So our division process is going to be fairly simple. We're going to say, okay, 2 goes into 5 how many times? Okay, so essentially, if we're skip counting with 2's, what is the closest we can get to 5? And the closest we can get to 5 without going over is 4. That was 2 counts of 2. So 2 times 2 got me close to 5, and that number was 4. We can't arrive exactly on 5 using 2's, but we can get close. So we want to see how much is left over. So we do 5 minus the 4, and we get 1. Okay, so far so good. For intents and purposes, I'm essentially ignoring that decimal. I don't really care about it right now because I've already brought it up there. Okay, so I'm going to just move on, just like normal division, and I'm going to bring down that 6 because you can't just like ignore the 6. We bring it down. So what we have here is 16. So now I say to myself, okay, how many times does 2 go into, let me erase this number, how many times does 2 go into 16? Question mark. Well, I could keep going here, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. How many iterations of 2 is that? Well, it goes to the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So you can see that I got to 8 this time before I got to the number that I wanted. So that is why I'm going to put an 8 right there. That tells me that 2 times 8 equals 16. Okay, so 2 fit into, that's how I like to say it, 16 8 times. What does that number equal? Well, we got to 16 exactly. So essentially, anytime you land on the number exactly, you're going to have that remainder of 0. Okay, and if we get the remainder of 0 and we have no more numbers to the right, then that means we're done. We don't have to bring anything else down, and 2.8 is our answer. So we're going to write 2.8 up here. And you could absolutely use, you don't have to rewrite it with this worksheet. I just wanted to show what that looks like. But yeah, you can go ahead and use this area right here. But 2.8 is going to be our answer. Make sure to write it exactly above the place value. So if I need to write that 2 above the 0, that 8 above the 5, and so forth, okay? very important that you kind of stay organized with the place values as you're doing this type of division. So we finished step 3. We're done with this problem. Again, if we did not have a remainder of 0, let's say for this problem, I know this is not the case for this worksheet, but just bear with me for just a moment in case you're like, hey, what happens if this, what's the scenario? So let's say we got a remainder of 2 and we have no more numbers here. You're going to pretend there's a 0, and you're going to bring down that 0 and make it 20. And you're going to keep going. Well, that wouldn't happen. But let's say if it was 1. There we go. We have a remainder of 1. We bring down this imaginary 0 because we just fill that in. You could fill in zeros here forever, and then we can keep going. So in this case, it would be 5, and we'd be done. But that's what you would do, okay? You would just put it in a 0, drop it down until you have no remainder left, okay? So that's just the quick summary of it. Let's do a couple problems so we get the hang of it. So let's jump up to number 1. With number 1, we have 1.64 divided by 0.2. So the first step is move that decimal place. So our new problem becomes 16.4. Okay, I'm going to use white here. Give me a second. I got rid of that decimal. Essentially got rid of that one. Our new number became 2. So it's just 2. That's what we're looking for, dividing it by a whole number. And I need to move this decimal over and make it 16.4 instead. Step 2 is bring up that decimal. I want that decimal exactly in that spot. So look at the lanes I have here. I have the tens place, the ones place, the tenths place, and if I needed to, there's the hundreds place. Okay, but I need to make sure I stay in those lanes. I'm actually going to leave that purple up just so you can see how that works. Okay, so now I'm ready to divide. 2 does not go into 1. Okay, so if I'm looking at groups of 2 here, if you want, use your multiplication chart or something like that just to keep on track. You'll notice that immediately I am above the number 1 that I'm targeting. So I need to move on to the next group. The next group would be 16. So 16 is the next number I can try. And we just did that one. We just saw that it was 8. So I'm going to write 8 above the 6 in 16. And I know that's 16. So if I do the subtraction, I got to exactly that number. Anytime that happens, it's remainder 0. But now I need to bring down the next number, which is 4. So then I say, okay, how many times does 2 go into 4? Well, we see that. It's up there. It's 2 times. Okay, so 2 times 2 gives me 4. So that means I get exactly 4. Again, I landed exactly on it. So I do 4 minus 4 is 0. One common mistake I see is people like, oh, it goes in 2 times and they subtract 2. Don't do that because we landed exactly on it. There should be no remainder. If you do that, you're just going to be all sorts of messed up. So 4 minus 4 is 0. We have no more remainder, so we are done. We stayed in our lanes. We didn't have any tens places. We had the ones place, which was 8, and the tens place, but we didn't use the hundredths, so 8.2 is our answer. I'm going to do one more for you guys. Let's do this one. This one looks kind of tough. I'm going to show you the box method for this one. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, same thing. I'm going to move that decimal. So now we have 30.1 divided by 7. Okay, and what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you the box method. And the box method looks like this. You can also check out some of my other videos about the box method. I put the 7 out front. I'm going to put 3, 0, 1. And then I'm going to move that decimal right above the space between 0 and 1, just like it was here. See how I moved it right here? I'm going to make sure it's represented right here, okay? So 30, I'm reading at 30.1. I moved that decimal up. So I'm done with step 2. I brought it up, and I'm ready to divide. This one's slightly different, this method, but it's the same principle. It's just a different organization structure. So I'm going to start by saying, how many times does 7 go into 3? Well, 7 is bigger than 3, so it goes in 0 times. And if it doesn't go into 3, it's too big, then that number that's closest to it, 0, 7, 14, 21, those are the multiples, right? Well, 0 is like, we didn't multiply it by anything. We multiplied it by 0. 7 times 0 is 0, and so our remainder is going to be 3. So we're going to bring this number up to the next one. And it's like the same thing when you bring it down, just in reverse. So essentially what we did here is, you know how I said 7 doesn't go into 3, so we're going to try the next group, which is 30. That's essentially what happened here. I just wanted to show the process because this is the exact process you're going to use every time. So now we say, how many times does 7 go into 30? Well, that's 4 times because that's 1, 2, 3. That's an ugly 2. Let me change that. 4. So 7 times 4 gives me 28. I didn't get to it. I got close, but I didn't get exact. And my remainder is going to be 2. So I'm going to bring up this 2. I like to say bring the leftovers to the neighbor's house. So if you have leftovers, you know, from eating like Thanksgiving or something, you're going to bring them over to the neighbor's house just to be nice, right? So now I say, how many times does 7 go into 21? I just got that answer right here, and that's 3 times. And that's 21, and I have no remainder. Now, if you did have a remainder and you got done with your numbers, so 301, you would create what I call a phantom box. One of my students came up with that name. I liked it. And you're going to have a 0 already present there, and you would bring up the leftovers over. That's not the case here, okay, because we don't have any remainder. But I'm just showing you if that were to happen, that's what it would look like. So our answer is 4.3, okay? So this is another way to do it using the box method. I'm going to write my answer 4.3 like that, making sure that decimal is directly above that decimal that I moved, and I'm done. So that's our process. Hope you guys found this video helpful. Make sure to leave a comment if you have any questions on it, and I look forward to seeing you next time right here on Wes Explains Best.